Welcome to Gravity this season. Today's sport, tennis. Tennis is a profound example of load and explode. The whole concept of the game is about positioning your body so that you can load and explode to return the ball to the other side of the court. So from a functional foundation standpoint, we're going to take a look at some skills, one in particular, the forehand today. Take a look at it, some different examples of it, and how we can identify whether or not we can help this client to become stronger, maybe in the hips, maybe in the trunk, maybe in the shoulder. So we'll take a look, we'll apply it to the GTS. We always have to remember that we have different types of ground surfaces that we're working on. Today we'll be working on a hard court. Of course, the other options you have are your clay courts and your grass courts. So take that into consideration if you're training an athlete or a client who plays tennis. I think typically you're going to probably see hard court. Okay. When we talk about load and explode in the forehand, we're typically talking about a lunge with a reach. I've brought some special help with me today. Come on in, Kara. Kara Abe she basically manages the entire training department of Gravity, so many of you already know her, and if you know her by voice, now you know her by person. Kara is a special person to me because she helps run the department, as well as she was part of the San Diego Team Tennis League, and in 2006 national champions, right? So this is a trained professional expert I'm working with. She even had me set my tennis balls in the right place so I don't look like an idiot out here throwing tennis balls at a client rather than feed them in with a racket. So thanks for being here, Kara. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send Kara back, and what we're going to do is feed her some balls that she can hit forehands back at me. And if she hits me on the head, we'll have fun with that. It'll be fun. She's got the aim and the expertise to be able to deliver them right over this way so they don't hit me in the face, although she might want to take out some frustrations on me. What I'm looking at here is I want to see what is the reaction that her body is placed in when I give her different lead-ins or different feeds, whether it's a low shot or a wide shot or maybe it's a running shot. I just want to see the different reactions, and then we'll take a look at maybe the trunk, the upper body, and maybe the lower body, and apply some exercises to the GTS. You ready to get started? Okay, I'm just going to give her some easy shots, and I want to just see what happens with her body. I'm giving her some low ones. Good. Uh-oh, that's a tough one. That's my bad there. She knows I'm not an expert at this sport. We've got some wind out here. All right, I'm being easy on her right now. But you can see that each time she does this, she's rotating her body so that she's preloaded to get that real nice single arm forehand. Now what's neat about Kara is she's got a trick. She does a bilateral or a two-armed forehand. That's her power stroke. She's done it all her life. This is something that really is unique to her playing abilities and probably helping her win championships. But let's just see what the reaction is. It's a little bit different. So you can see she has trained herself to get more power by using both arms. Let's go a couple more. And now a couple low shots. Okay, so come on in, Kara. So here you can see that we're looking at primarily a lunge. She positions, she lunges, and she rotates her body, all to help load the trunk, to help load the big honkers, the butt, and to get the calf and everything else involved as well. So we're going to look at the movement there. I also see a lot of, when you do a slow motion forehand for me, and I see the lunge, I see a rotation, and then as she did that faster, I saw a lot of kind of pulling. So she was pulling up and across. So I almost think, hey, this might be an opportunity to tweak the biceps curl a little bit to help get that power to return the racket in, or maybe even help create more of a top spin on the ball. Okay, we're here with the GTS now. We're ready to apply some of those kind of observations that we made with Kara and apply them to the GTS. So what we're going to start off with is, of course, lunging. So lunging, you see a lot of lunging in tennis. You're running, you're getting it, but we're focused on the forehand here. So we want to have the left foot forward. That's what I kept seeing, is she would position so her left foot was forward. She'd open up her hips, open up the rotators of the trunk, and then the arms as well. So it's ground reaction force and an external driver called a racket. So we're going to utilize the racket as our external driver to mimic the sport. So we're going to get her in position. She's going to do a reverse lunge. So her left foot's forward, her right foot's on the glide board, and I can spot back here if I feel that the client's unsafe or it's the first time by having her just come back into a lunge and first just try to look at a real type of swing. So she's going right into rotation, and you notice right away you can go back and forth, kind of get your bearings there. So that, I like what she's doing there. That gives me, those are big rocks. Those are things I'm looking for that give me little indicators of something I might work on later. So as she goes through her rotation, I can see from here that as she presses her hip back, that her trunk rotates really well. Her hip, on the other hand, is causing her trunk to rotate. It's not opening up as much. So we're gonna bring her back up here. And now what I'm gonna have you do is just take the racket and grab it with both hands. And you're gonna do that same thing. And I'll just kind of be with you here. And if what you're gonna do is lunge back and just keep your arms overhead. Just keep them straight up in the air. And what I want her to do is focus on opening up that right hip. So she comes down and she starts to get comfortable with that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Then I can start to have her drive her hands towards me as she does the lunge. Now this gets tricky, so go ahead and keep them overhead. And you're gonna drive them towards me, so kind of leaning to your left, but I'll be over here. So it's kind of the frontal plane. You're just gonna go back and then come towards me as you lunge back. So it's kind of like this and return. There you go, that's it. So now I'm really focused in on opening up that left hip. We're also getting a nice chain reaction through the trunk, or through all the way down to the foot here with a lunge. Good, that'll help to open up the hip. You can take a break there. And then we can go after different planes. So that's more of a frontal plane driver for the hip. She started off with a nice transverse plane driver to the hip. And then we can also do sagittal by just keeping the hands overhead. Now, Kara, I want to ask you again, when you were doing those, you're just the trunk rotation. So you were lunging and rotating with the racket. If you could do those again. They're fun out here outside, huh? That wind's trying to knock her over. Now she's a two-armed, two-handed forehander. So as she comes back and does that, you can see how much her trunk rotates. She's able to use her trunk to get the ball out. Now typically you'll see people do single-hand forehand, where they leave this arm out or even drive that arm to help create an eccentric lengthening across the pectoral muscles to smash the ball this way. So you can see two different ways there. You'll see them both ways with your forehanders. A two-handed method or a one-handed method. Good, now this is a lot of, you can take another break. The left foot's getting all the work because this is forehand. We're not worried about balancing the body out, because for a backhand we'd be probably working the other leg. So keep that in mind. Okay, next I'm gonna go ahead and take the racket and we're gonna go into what you probably expected was more trunk rotation. So we're gonna do some trunk rotation now. And Kara's got her gravity gripper pants on that don't slip at all on the GTS, right? And what we're going to do is I'm going to have you get into a kneeling position facing this way. So kind of just like this, just like that. And I'm going to hold the board here. And you want to scoot your knees just a little bit more forward so you have your whole shins on there. So a little bit more this way. Good. Now, I've got this handle. I've got control of everything right now, so I want her to have a wide base of support. I like the space between the knees. She's stable. What I like to do is typically just kind of move them first so that they understand what's happening. You get what's happening here, Kara? I pull this way, you go that way. So once I feel like she's got control, she's got good trunk stability, and the wind's not going to knock her down, then I'll hand her the handle, and we're going to work with both hands because she's a bilateral forehander. And she's just going to mimic that motion. And the reason I chose this back pulley is when you do the forehand, we're focused on that eccentric lengthening and concentric explosion. So I wanted to pull her back more so she opens up a little bit more as she comes through. Now we're only going to work in a small range, so you can go ahead and come through here and then back to about here. Good, back here and back. So I know from teaching the 8-hour course, and you know from your course perhaps, is that I know there's a 90-degree angle between her body and the cable about right here. So this is really where the training benefits come from. So I can work a little bit this way and a little bit this way. Let's go a couple more. Does that feel like tennis to you? So now I want to work on the low shots and the high shots. So you can go into your incline and decline variations where she goes down across to the hip, really all the way across now, and then back here. We go across to the high shots. Maybe there's more of a, that'd be a goofy high shot, huh? That's not a good forehand. A lob? Yeah. We have a lob. So that would be a new video we're gonna have to create. The lob functional foundation. Okay, so you can see the basic exercise here. The emphasis is on this going from eccentric to concentric. So if I really wanted to focus on the hip of that transformation zone, I may have her only work in a small range. So if you just go back and forth between here and here, there and there. Doesn't look like much, but she's getting a nice little chain reaction in that transformation zone where we go from eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric. And that transformation zone, I'll take this, is where a lot of things go wrong. A lot of people, when you go down into your, if you're in a eccentric lengthening and something messes you up, either it's the ground or the racket or something, then you're in a position where either you get injured, or you've always heard in the golf swing, come up nice and slow and pause and then come down, because if you come back too fast, you lose control of the motion to be able to explode through. Okay, the last exercise, Kara, is going to be a kneeling. So you're gonna kneel facing this direction. And again, I have control of the glide board here. What this is a biceps curl. And if I wanted to tweak the biceps curl, my mind's working right now. I'm going off where I was supposed to go. But we're gonna stick with the biceps curl. I'm gonna give her both cables. Let's give you this one first. And you can go ahead and sit back on your heels if that doesn't cause you any knee pain. And now what I want you to do is to imagine that you're swinging through. So it may not be a very symmetrical biceps curl, but imagine that this racket was right here. And you bring it back to drive and you comes through. And then what do? You kind of did this whip. You kind of did a whip. So let's see what that looks like. And you can even keep your wrists in a nice hammer grip style. So you do a hammer grip type of biceps curl. There you go. And you can even bring them in towards the top. I saw that you were doing this. So bring it up and down, up and down. Now this is a tweak to the biceps curl. We can go a lot of different directions here, but I saw that movement, and the reason I saw it is because there's a lot of follow through, and something's got to recoil that racket. What it is it helps to shorten the lever so you don't have so much momentum of mass as you go through the swing. How those feel, okay? You also get a secondary benefit throughout the trunk as well with the biceps curl, as you learned. But it's just another reason. Okay, sometimes I get caught up in, if it's too isolated, it's not integrated, and it's not a functional exercise. A biceps curl is function, so it's difficult to say it's a functional exercise or not, but it was a component of what I saw. So if I see it and I can get it down into one component that it's easier for me to observe, then we're in good shape. Okay, I'm gonna take this handle. Now, one thing I wanna do real quick, this wasn't part of the plan, so everybody's gonna be thrown off here, but this is what I like to do. I take the handle, I've got full control, you can let go, and I'm gonna let it go all the way back. You can brace down if you want. And I'm gonna have you come back to that kneeling lateral position. This is extra, all extra stuff. Bonus, put a little star up, bonus material. Now, the reason I put her in this position is when we're here, all those movements that she does are all going to be driven from a resistance that's coming from this direction. So we have a cable that's shooting out from here, so we can work a lot more than just the trunk rotation. If I want to work a single arm forehand, then I can just give her the back cable and have her mimic the forehand here. Now this is going to be a lot more load, so I can spot her as she goes through that forehand and then back. These are just things that sometimes I forget to mention, and we come back and visit towards the end. Okay, and it can also go through, if you want to take this with both hands and go overhead and do kind of a lateral flexion move. Now I'm going to move around real quick. There you go, just like that. So now I'm getting more frontal plane lengthening as she comes through right here. You really kind of, as you come back, good solid tilt, and then bring it home. So that's a good frontal plane driver, perfect. And then the other one, which is real hard, is to use the other hand and do horizontal shoulder abduction, which is kind of this move. So it almost looks like a backhand from the left side. So I'm just spotting her here because we're at a real high angle for that shoulder. And you can just try to drop that shoulder down Keep it down and in as you come through. Good. Now, the only reason I'm doing this with Kara, I'll take this now, is because she's a bilateral forehander. So we want to integrate both hands. So you can go ahead and stand up, Kara. Thank you very much. So we have a lot of components of tennis. If we look at the sport as a whole, you're moving around the court, you're jumping, you're sprinting, you're getting up off the ground, you're sliding sometimes if it's clay. You're hitting backhands, forehands, overhead smash, backing up, running forward, all the above. Take one of those components and try to break it down and create exercises, and that can be part of maybe a small group personal training session. If you get it down with one person, then you start to add more and more people, and then all of a sudden you've got 8 or 10 different sessions that you can teach tennis players with. So we hope this helps you out. This is just part one of tennis, the tennis forehand.